These staff members will sit down at a computer and walk you through every step of the FAFSA data entry process. We'll even transmit them for you to the feds. In short, there's really no need for anyone to put off or to be put off by the FAFSA process, the process of seeking financial aid, and that is the first step. This brings me to a myth that may deter many students and families from considering college. The myth is that higher education always results in crushing debt, specifically student loans that haunt graduates for decades. For the vast majority of college graduates, it's simply not true. We've all seen the horror stories that are trotted out by the news media on a regular basis. They feature hardworking people with enormous student loan debt that overshadows every aspect of their lives. I saw a TV story last week on one of the news programs that talked about an online university that had a student who racked up $110,000 in debt over a 4-year period. And after her graduation, she was complaining she still didn't have a job. The truth is the level of debt at a private or for-profit school is very easy to accumulate and can easily reach 6 figures. Yet, it is true, many students graduate with college loan debt. At Kent State, about 65% of our students, undergraduate and graduate, leave with some loan debt. But in the vast majority of cases, the debt is not daunting enough to make national headlines. The Chronicle of Higher Education, the academia's major news source, recently tackled the subject of student loan debt head-on. Their analysis and that of other nonprofit organizations find that about 30 to 40% of students who earn a degree or certificate graduate without debt. 30 to 40% of students graduate without debt. Among those who did borrow, the average amount owed upon graduation was well under the cost of a Ford Taurus. In fact, according to the U.S. Department of Education, the average debt for the class of 2007 was about $17,700 at public colleges and universities and about $23,000 at private universities. As I mentioned, Kent State tuition is about $8,700. Let's say a family borrows the whole deal. They borrow $8,700. The fixed federal loan rate for parents is 7.9%. That translates to a monthly payment of just over $100 a month, in fact, $105.10 to be exact, over the standard 10-year loan period. That's about $3.50 a day. I don't know, I think that's less than the cost of most trips to Starbucks, something that college students and parents do on a fairly regular basis. The Chronicle article goes on to explore why some students borrow much more than average in the course of earning a bachelor's degree. The answer is that in many cases, students borrowed heavily did not consider outstanding public universities like those in Ohio. They were determined to wear the sweatshirt of a prestigious private school or perhaps go to a for-profit or an online school, whether they could afford it or not. Those short-sighted, emotion-based decisions can turn into a financial nightmare at the end of 4 or 5 years when the loan payments actually kick in. Banks are very happy to loan money to students, and students can easily rack up $100,000 or more in debt. We all know that America is home to many world-class private universities. We all know the names, Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, GW, Tulane, and our own Case Western Reserve. We all know that tuition at these venerable institutions is about as high as it gets. In fact, when you compare tuition sticker prices, you can complete a bachelor's degree at Kent State University for what it costs to attend Harvard for 1 year. My 40 years of experience in higher education allow me to conclude the following with a fair degree of certainty. Private universities with their lofty tuition, and with all due respect to them because I worked at them and was part of them, and I do have great respect for the private institutions, but the truth is they're not 3, 4, 7, or 10 times better than public universities in terms of providing undergraduate quality instruction. They're great places, but you pay a hefty price for it. Students at universities like Kent State receive truly excellent educations. In fact, Kent State approaches every operation, teaching, research, and service with the goal of excellence in mind. Our faculty and staff and our students prove every day that quality and cost are not linked together. As evidence, I'm proud to point out that Kent State is home to one of the top journalism programs in the country, a fashion school that's second to none, a world-class financial engineering program, and one of the world's leading academic centers for liquid crystal technology. And that's all without a $54,000 tuition bill. Of course, not all overborrowers attend big-name private schools. The difference between affordable and unaffordable is sometimes linked to what could be called a lifestyle issue. I'm talking about students who spend spring breaks in exotic locales, perhaps summers in Europe, and portrayed in the movies as students who drive head-turning cars. Having said that, the vast majority of students do not view college as club ed. They're hardworking and diligent. At Kent State, many are first-generation students who take their status as college students seriously. I want to make another point about that's frequently missing in the student loan drama that makes it into the media. Often you hear about people drowning in debt because they borrowed to go to medical school or law school. Naturally, debt for this level of education will be much higher, and presumably so will their ability to repay that loan. According to the Census Bureau, the average college graduate earned about $57,000 in 2007. The average high school graduate earned about $31,000. That difference may not seem like a big difference for teenagers, but I suspect that they'd be more impressed by the fact that across a lifetime, someone with a 4-year degree will, on average, earn $1 million more than someone with only a high school degree. The correlation between educational level and employment is another compelling reason to consider a higher education. The Wall Street Journal reported that individuals with bachelor's degree have an unemployment rate of about 4.8%. For those with associate degrees, it's about 7.7%. But for individuals with high school diplomas, the rate was 10%. And for those who never completed high school, the unemployment rate was 15.5%. That point is particularly relevant in Ohio today and in Cleveland. These realities are among the reasons that the Chancellor of the Ohio Board of Regents, Eric Fingerhut, is focused intently on increasing the number of college graduates statewide. A first step to that goal, one that's critical to Ohio's future, is affordability. For the last 2 years, Ohio froze tuition on public universities. That freeze, which we've tried to continue this year, was lifted as the realities of a multi-billion-dollar state budget fall set in. Unfortunately, the state's need-based grant program went under the chopping block at the same time. 2 of Kent State's students affected by that last resort action are here today. Emily Mazwowski and Mary Rudolph. Where are you, ladies? You're right here. I'm glad. Emily and Mary, would you stand and be recognized? These are 2 great Kent State students. You can sit down. Both of these talented young women have compelling stories. I'm going to share Mary's story with you because I'm limited by time. Mary is the youngest of 4 children. She was raised by a devoted single mother, a woman of unshakable faith, who taught her that she could achieve any dream if she wanted to, especially a dream of a college education. That dream almost vanished when Mary lost her mother to pancreatic cancer. Not only did she lose her best friend, her strongest supporter, she lost the money that had been set aside for college. It had been used to pay for medications. Fortunately, Mary was able to enroll at Kent State with financial aid. She qualified for an academic scholarship and an OCOG grant, the Ohio College Opportunity Grant. When the grant was cut by more than half, Mary sent me a wonderful letter about her situation. She wrote, "This grant money helps me pay for housing as well as books. I see no way I can continue here without financial help. Kent State is an awesome school, and I'm grateful for all that it has to offer me. I have a fire that burns deep within me for success, and with your help, I will let nothing stop me from achieving my goals. I ask that you help me fulfill my dream and my mother's dream for me to walk across the stage at Kent State as a first-generation college graduate." Well, I'm pleased to tell you that my Board of Trustees and I wanted to ensure that students with the greatest needs, students like Mary and Emily, could keep their financial footing on the path to graduation. Knowing what was at stake, we went back to the budget drawing board. And it wasn't easy, but we moved more than $2 million institutional dollars into a fund to help our financially neediest students, and often very talented students.